Welcome. So this video is going to be a unique one. A client of ours asked about building out some home gym equipment. They have a little bit of things already, and they had about a $1,500 budget, and I thought it'd be a useful video to build out for all of our clients, or really anybody, to capture some value based upon our experience helping probably hundreds of people with these little sorts of decisions, building out home gyms at this point, what we think would be the best bet for them. It's obviously tailored towards one individual, but you'll be able to get some themes of what would make sense for you if you're a little bit different than this individual. Okay. So we'll start off here at the top of kind of more about this person, this client. We'll obviously not have his name on here, but this is the stuff that he shared with me. So they're a male client. We've been training them for about 6 to 9 months. They're fairly strong and advanced, so they really do need a barbell. They can do 30 plus push-ups. They're maxing out their dumbbells on a lot of exercises, so they just need more weight to get stronger and overall build a better physique. All right. They also mentioned to me that space is not an issue. I did not clarify exactly what that meant, but we kind of discussed that a full barbell squat rack setup would be applicable to them. Obviously, if you live like in an apartment or something, this will not be suited for you. They already own dumbbells up to about 60 pounds, and then they also own a flat bench. Their training style is classic bodybuilding. We're doing bench press and squats and curls and things like that. Obviously, no equipment that they have access to no machines they have access to with being a home gym, and they're not really doing any cardio. They're quite lean already. And we'll have a conversation of what something like that could look like. They also live in a warm climate, so walks can be a great way for them to build in some easy cardio. And then probably the most important thing of this with home gyms, because you could of course get very extravagant if you want to, but their budget is around $1,500 for what they're originally wanting to spend. So that is the introduction information here. Now, for some themes that I want you to be thinking about as I go through this information for the client I'm making this for, and then really for anybody, are right here. So the first one, and this is, I think, well known in the home gym community, is that quality is more important than quantity. So what I mean by this, I would encourage people to buy relatively high quality items only, have a fewer number of things in their toolbox, so to say, and then to save up and buy additional items over time. Meaning, if you have a budget of $1,500 or $2,000 or whatever, don't think, okay, I need all of this stuff, and how can I make it fit for $2,000? Because you may end up buying some really crappy stuff that you don't even want to use, and it rattles and it breaks or whatever, and then you ended up having it for 2 months and you spent $200 on something. And if you would have just waited and saved some money, maybe it would have cost $400, but then lasted you a decade, right? You want to take a long game approach with the home gym equipment. So that's just a general theme. Of course, that can be very complex. That theme is present anytime I'm telling people to get or not get something. Can you find cheaper stuff than what I'm recommending to this client? 100%. You could find a squat rack for probably $100 on Amazon. And if that lasts you 3 months, cool. And then you just throw it in the trash. And I'm not going to say you wasted $100, but what if you bought something $200 more than that and you had it forever, right? You don't have to replace it. That replacement cost really can add up over time. Okay. Second theme here is ordering for a couple of suppliers, I think, is also critical. If people want to do some Rogue stuff and some Rep stuff and some Prime Fitness stuff and some Amazon, you're going to pay a lot of kind of phantom cost in shipping. Shipping is going to be a huge cost, whether it's either baked into the price like Rep, or if it's tacked on at the end to a lot of heavy stuff. So minimizing your suppliers will be key, and a recommendation we'll talk about today. And then as I kind of go through the website and some different options based upon this client, I'm going to talk about what I think could be worth the splurge and what I think is not worth the splurge. That way, maybe if your budget is slightly higher than 1,500, or you think, oh man, it's only 20% more for something that looks really cool, would that be worth it? Would that not be worth it? All right. Okay, and you'll see on this third column here now, I have the actual items we'll be discussing for this budget. I thought it'd be useful to break up this into a staples category and then an accessories category. So in the staples, you see roughly $1,200, the bulk of their budget, through these three items. And I kind of put some options here of, hey, pick and choose based upon what you want that kind of accumulate to maybe the leftover amount. Okay, so what we'll start here with is the actual power rack, right? This will be the foundation of most people's home gym if they do have, again, the space for it. I think this is by far the best bang for your buck that I have found that, again, fit into the categories I mentioned: relatively high quality, shipping cost, one resource, all of that. All right, so around probably $400 after tax here. What I love is the fact that it's, again, simple. You can bench, you can squat, you can overhead press, you can do a lot of different things in here, and it comes with a pull-up bar baked into it. So I know this person said they weren't space limited, right? But really on a pull-up bar, you have three options. You can have it attached to a rack like this. You can have a cable type of machine, and it may be in between that, or you can kind of do a door or like ceiling mount, right? The fact that it's baked into this, when a pull-up bar is probably going to run you like $50 to $100 just by itself, is a tremendous value. I also like the fact that the bar here can be neutral grip, pronated, chin up. You have good options there. So it's a very good overall setup here. Again, relatively minimal. There's no kind of bells and whistles. There's no fancy safeties like you see here. You can use, I have some of these on my rack. Again, I don't think these are things that are really worth it if you're trying to be relatively budget conscious, right? Are these fun to have? Are they a bit safer? Sure. Are they worth $100? Probably not, right? Again, I do this for a living. I'm kind of a home gym junkie. There are things that I'm willing to pay that I probably wouldn't recommend for the average person, okay? So this is a fantastic value for, again, right around $400 for the really foundation. I'm not sure if you can get different colors for the same price. You can, so that's cool, right? Again, I would not recommend, if you're trying to stay in a decent budget, to be paying more money for fun colors. But if it's free, then cool. You have some good optionality here. So this is a number one where you should start. This will give you a ton of optionality that you do not have with dumbbells, right? You can't put a bar on your back, from the ground really and squat without something like this. Same thing with a barbell bench press. You can't do those things without some support. And we think about, okay, what would be a little bit more expensive and less expensive from this? If we go to their kind of rack builder here, you can do something like a half rack where essentially it's a squat rack where it's just a stand, like something like this. Sure, they even have something like this. Okay, I can't find anything, but essentially you can find something that doesn't have any support. Think of something like this. This is meant to be kind of like a yoke as well. This sometimes will be really close to that $400 price point. So the difference is you'll have something a lot more stable with what I recommended. You also could look at something a bit more heavy duty that has something like storage on the sides. But again, these will be a lot more expensive, close to be twice the price. And if you're not limited on space, you could put your storage of weights outside of the rack. Now, it'd just be way cheaper. So a lot of times you will pay a little bit of a premium to make things more compact. So that will work in this person's favor, the fact that they don't have maybe a tiny footprint to store everything. So fantastic value there. Let's move on to the barbell. So barbells are going to be something that you really should not be, again, skipping out on. You can get really expensive barbells, which I think are worth it for almost nobody. A barbell in the $300 mark is going to be fantastic. I have Rogue barbells. Again, I probably wouldn't recommend getting a different supplier for that. I think the Rogue barbells are even a little bit cheaper, but once you cost for the shipping just for that one item, it probably washes out that. So this is like a fantastic overall bar. You could squat, you could bench, you could deadlift, you could curl, whatever you need to do. If you're, again, trying to stay in a decent budget, you want a one size fits most for things. Do not get into specialty bars for sure. Looks like you can play around with some of the colors here too, which I like. Again, it can be fun here. And this is a great value, $300 for a bar that essentially you'll never have to replace, right? If you buy a high quality bar like this or a Rogue Ohio bar, those things will be, you'll replace it when you feel like it, but you won't need to replace it. It's not going to bend. The caps are not going to break off. Again, a barbell can be something that's relatively inexpensive, to be honest, and something you can use for 3 hours a week for a decade, and maybe just want to change it up in 2034, and that's your own choice. But these things will last you forever if you buy high quality. Again, if you want to go to Amazon and find a bar half the price, that may be great, and then you deadlift 315 and it bends and now it's worthless, kind of a thing. So I love this bar. I don't think it's really worth it to buy anything better than this or more expensive than this, to be honest. And I think that, again, saving $100 and having to be much worse is not what I would skimp out on. All right. Moving on to the third thing here, you'll obviously need plates. Now, if you see, even though plates are like the least sexy thing on this menu, if you will, it's the most expensive. The first thing is, again, this person's relatively strong, so I recommended 265 of total plates. If you add a 45-pound barbell, I think that's 310. My math is correct. Yep, 310. Yeah. And I think, again, this should be sufficient for him to get good workouts in. He probably can't 1 rep max with this, but that's not the training we do. He's kind of in a classic 6 to 12 rep range. This should be plenty of weight overall. I really like this 265 combination of things as well. So if you come down here, it includes 2 sets of 45s, so 4 total, right? They're never going to sell you just one weight of something. You get a pair of 25s, a pair of 10s, a pair of 5, and a pair of 2.5s. So there's almost no weight jump you can't make with that. Say if you're doing bench press, you could do 135, then you could do 145. If you had the 5s on each side, you could take that off, put the 10s on, do 155. You can do 155 to 160 to 165, right? There'd be some like random things you couldn't do. For example, you couldn't, I did the math beforehand, you couldn't do like 175 on this bar. You would put like 135, 155, 165, 170. So you have to make the jump, to 185 at that point. But for the most part, this would be a great place to start. And hey, if you wanted to get another pair of 10s or something, you can find that on Facebook Market for $30, right? This will be a great fundamental thing to build out 90% of the weight you'll want to use in training. As far as better or worse than this, saving some money, you definitely can find cheaper stuff like this locally on something like Facebook Market. That could be a good place to start. Personally, do I want to haggle with people for 3 weeks to save $50? Maybe not worth it. You may be surprised too how, if you're getting kind of really cheap plates, how inaccurate they may be. They may say 45 on it and it's actually 49, which may not be a big difference. Maybe one of the weights is 49 and one of the weights is 44, and you put them on the bar together and it feels a little bit funky. So I would personally say buy at least some new, and then if you want to find some 25s, find some 10s on Marketplace, that's okay. But again, it's all relative, right? Maybe finding them 20% cheaper seems like it, but then you think is $50 or $75 worth it for the risk that it may not be very good? Because again, just like the barbell, these are things you're not going to ever have to replace if you buy good quality stuff initially. Okay. As far as then upgrading from weights like this, the only consideration I think that's probably good for most people would be one set of bumper plates. If you're doing something like deadlifts a lot, which me and this client really will not be doing, to be honest, having like just one set of 45-pound bumper plates, I wouldn't even get a full set. So just a pair, one pair of 45-pound bumpers can really help if you're worried about the concrete in your garage or whatever. Even if you're doing something like Romanian deadlifts or something you're not going to be forcefully dropping the bar on it, or even if you have like horse mats or not cardboard, like wood, some like 2x4 stuff. I'm blanking on the name. On the ground, something like this to absorb it as opposed to just steel, I think is helpful. That's what I did. I have one set of bumper plates. We have 45s and also 25s for my wife, and then everything else is steel. So it's because, again, I don't think you really need to have a full set of bumper plates. Even for heavy deadlifting, that one, in my opinion, absorbs a lot of the weight there. So that could be worth it for a lot of people. And then I personally have these, let's see here, bars and plates. I really like these equalizer plates. Again, this is a splurge for 90% of people, is not worth it. I love being able to put my hands in between these and sliding them on and off of bars is awesome. This will probably be something of like, I don't know, if you maybe want to skimp out on some weights early and then you're a year in and you're like, man, I just kind of have some money and I want to get some nicer plates. I really like these, right? Now, if we look at the premium here, a 265 set, which I definitely would not get like the 5, the 2.5, right? I'd probably just get the big boys, the 45s. That's what I have here. But it's a lot, right? It's about $250 more for the same exact set on something like this. So that's what I would probably say. Even again, the pair of these at 45 is not cheap at $250, but I do like these as an option if you want to splurge a little bit on some plates. All right, cool. So we have our 3 staple items here. Now let's get into the accessory to round things out. So the first one here is an adjustable bench. Now, this is slightly over the budget, especially if we include tax, which I wasn't going to do, but this would put the individual closer to $1,600. Now, again, like maybe they can just do an extra $100. They really like this item. Or what I would really suggest this person do, depending upon the quality of this, is to sell this flat bench. Say if they get $100 for that, roll that into a little bit of the adjustable bench, and then this would pretty much max out their budget. If it was me, I would get these 4 things, right? That's what I would personally do. And then the weight clips you should get, it's $15, but even for the weight storage, to be blunt, like I would just wait and put them on the ground. And then really, if you need to save up a couple $100 to buy this, I would buy it later. The nice thing about Rep Fitness, you're not paying shipping. Of course, you technically are. They just bake it into the price, but you're not. My point is, if you wanted to get most of this stuff, or say not get this adjustable bench, and then when you are able to sell your flat bench, then get it later, it's really easy to do that. You feel like you don't have to buy everything at once to save on shipping costs. That's one of the other reasons I really like Rep, is it's really easy to do that. I have purchased I think 3 or 4 things from them as one-offs, which I love. I bought an adjustable bench, did not have to worry about minimum shipping amount. I bought a dip station from them, and I also bought my weight belt from them, like a dip belt, all individual things. So I love that. The reason why I like this adjustable bench, it does open up a lot of additional variety of training. Incline bench press, chest supported rows are probably the biggest 2. And if I was going to be kind of budget conscious, I would just have one bench and I would make sure it's adjustable. Again, it just gives you good optionality. You can do back supported overhead press incline, dumbbell curls. In my opinion, if you're going to have one bench, it should be adjustable. And again, there's stuff that's slightly nicer than this. I actually have one that's not as nice as this. I think this one would be probably the best in between. I think they also have a 3200 that they call it. Let's see. So this is their middle of the road bench here. I have this one, the 3000. It's just not super sturdy. It's not bad. I think maybe I have this one. I have one of these two. It's definitely not bad, but it's not as, if I go to a gym and I use something closer to this, I feel a difference personally. So I think I did get this for really cheap. I think I got it for like $200 on a sale. I think it was Memorial Day of a year or something like that. And it gets the job done. I don't plan on replacing it. Maybe eventually, because I have a flat bench and this. It probably totals $500. Maybe eventually I'll sell both of them and just get a really nice adjustable bench. But if I could maybe take it back, I'd spend an extra $100 and get this item here. These are great. Again, don't get me wrong, but I think that for the majority of people, the benefits of things like this can be mostly aesthetic. It's like laser etching in it, or it has the numbers, like it says 15 degrees, and this one doesn't say that. They're cool things, but they're maybe not a massively different product that, again, if you're trying to only spend $1,500, I wouldn't put 100 of that just to a slightly better bench. I do think the jump from this one to that one, though, would be worth it for a lot of people, just for the stability of the product. So I really like that. And then the last two things here are not sexy, but I will go through them. So this is I got the link here wrong. I'll change that for you. This is a storage area. Again, you'll need something like this eventually to put all the weights on. I personally have this. It's simple, it's sturdy, it's great. There's nothing like to talk about here, but this will just make sure you're not tripping over weights all the time. And then weight clips are what you would expect. Can you find these maybe at Dick's Sporting Goods or something? Maybe. I'd probably just get them with everything else. And definitely do not recommend splurging on clips. You can get stuff that's probably 2 or 3 times this price that lock into place or whatever. I've trained a lot of different sports. Things like this always work perfectly fine. A lot of times the cooler clips are also just like a pain to get on and off, or they break more easily. I couldn't imagine this doesn't work for almost everybody, unless you just, again, want a cool clip, but I like these, okay? So that's what I would think about doing. Again, hopefully I kind of covered this in pretty good detail around the $1,500 mark. And then what I did not include for everybody, and then for the client here as well, flooring. That will just be a little bit more complicated based upon what your situation looks like. I think the very popular thing that people do, it's what I did. I'm totally blanking on the name, but I went to Lowe's and got a whole bunch of just very thin, like I think plywood would be the term, very thin plywood. I put some sheets over my garage, and then I got horse stall mats from Tractor Supply. I have a lot that's covered in my garage. It doesn't need to be. So you can get away with essentially making like a deadlift platform with 2 pieces of wood and some mat for probably a couple $100. If you want a really big footprint, though, that's going to cost more money. That's a little bit out of the realm of the home gym particular thing. And again, for a lot of people, if they maybe have something like a nice garage floor, they may not need to do anything with that. They just maybe can't deadlift on it, and that's okay. You still can set weights down on concrete. I just wouldn't like deadlift on concrete. But if you're doing something like Romanian deadlifts, you probably can pick it up from the ground, set it down without breaking your concrete, okay? And then as far as what's next for this person, because it's like a little bit of a gateway drug, home gyms can be, the 2 things to think about would be maybe for their next $1,500. I just made up this number. We haven't discussed this. But let's say 6 months, a year, 2 years from now, they're loving it and they want to, invest some more money in their stuff. I would look into a piece of cardio equipment. So a bike, a rower, something like that. and then either a cable machine. These are the two things that we think about buying one item that open up a lot of optionality. These things do that. For this client in particular, because they're already lean, they live in a warm climate, I would lean towards a cable machine a lot more towards than cardio for them. And by the way, Rep makes really awesome cable machines as well. So I would come in here to functional trainers. Again, this would not be a today thing, but you see they have this compact one for 2,000. I think they have this one here for 2,200. This is kind of what I think is that let me back up a bit. This person came to us with what I would see as like a tier 1 home gym. Dumbbells, bench, pull-up bar. A lot of people have something like that. Tier 2 is this setup. It's a barbell, it's a rack. This will go from like you're 50% loaded to now you're like 90% loaded after getting tier 2. And then tier 3 is this stuff. Once you have a cable machine, cardio, barbell, dumbbells, unless you really want to go like, I would say past 100% is leg press, leg extension, real like machines. And that requires a lot of space that most people just frankly don't have. That would be like, super level, premium tier, right? That I guys don't think there's the market for those people, I think, is very small. But 1 out of 100,000 people probably do something like that. But yeah, those are something to think about. I know it was a long video, but I wanted to, number one, provide this really in-depth information for this client. And then hopefully people can take this of, if your budget is half of this, if your budget is 2 times this, you kind of get an idea of, oh, okay, where do I think the items are still there, but hey, I actually can splurge a little bit more on plates, or actually can splurge a little bit more on the cable machine. I actually want to put this cable machine with everything that was included here, right? Good optionality here. But yeah, that's the video. Thanks for watching. And until next time, thank you.